All right, welcome to your exam review. This is probably not going to be your most exciting video of mine that you're going to watch, but if you missed class, you're probably going to want to watch this so that you know what you're expected to know for our exam. All right, so first of all of your tests and quizzes from the Dave Ramsey units are available on Moodle for you to study from. That said, if you know the stuff that is on this exam review guide, you should be fine. But some of you might want to look back, especially you'll notice as we jump down to numbers 5, those are questions that you have actually already answered and you might want to look those up. So, all of your tests are available if you want to look at what answers you had in the past. Other thing that's available on Moodle is this actual document, so go ahead and look this document up if you want. The format of the exam will just be all short answer, short paragraph answers. It's not going to be a terribly long exam, but this is what you need to know. First, know the importance of starting to save early. If you remember that this is also actually really question 5 of this review, part A, explaining the importance of that Ben and Arthur chart. It's on page 16 in your book. I don't remember the exact details, but the way it went was Ben was the smart brother. Ben started saving when he was young. Actually, if you look at the chart, he started saving $2,000 a year at age 19. And Ben invested those $2,000 a year every year until he was 26 years old. And then he stopped. Arthur invested $2,000 every year starting at age 27 and invested all the way till he retired, $2,000 every year until age 65. And guess who had more money? Even though Ben had only invested for 8 years and Arthur had invested for nearly 40 years, it was still Ben who had more money because he started earlier. And that's really the importance of saving. The earlier you start saving, the more money you will have in the long run. And the key thing to know there, the key thing to have somewhere in your answer is compound interest. Oops, spell that right. Interest. Compound interest is what makes that happen. So if you have that word in there, you'll probably get the right answer. Number 2, know what the main types of retirement accounts are and how they work. The 401k and the 403b are both employer plans. So 401k, 403b, employer plans, where you or your employer puts money in. The IRA is your individual retirement account. Actually, it's an individual retirement arrangement, but most people say account. Anyway, all three of those, the way they work, and this is the important thing here, is all three of those are pre-tax. Pre-tax. Oops. Put a space in. Meaning the money you put into it goes in without being taxed. And you don't pay any taxes on it until you retire. The Roth is the opposite of that. It's after tax. So this would be your Roth IRA. It would be the same idea as that traditional IRA, except instead of putting pre-tax money in, you put after-tax money, and you never pay again. So 401k, 403b, IRA, those are pre-tax. You pay the taxes now. You don't pay the taxes now. You pay the taxes eventually when you take the money out. Roth, you pay the taxes now, and you never pay taxes again. So 401k, 403b, employer plans, IRA, individual plan. Those 401k, 403b, IRA, the traditional ones are pre-tax, pay taxes later. Roth, pay taxes now, never pay taxes again. Okay, number 3. Number 3 says, know the difference between stocks, bonds, money markets. Know which is riskier but have higher returns, and know what the low-risk money market should be used for. So let's start with that last part. What should the low-risk money market be used for? Your emergency fund. It's uber safe. You aren't going to lose your money. Put it somewhere that there's no risk. It's not very exciting, doesn't pay a whole lot of interest, but it's safe. Stocks are the opposite end of the spectrum. Stocks, what are stocks? Stocks are part ownership of a company. You know this from your stock project, but the returns can be really, really high, but the risk is also really high. So stocks are high risk, high return. Bonds are what we call debt instruments, which you don't really need to know that word, but if the government or a company needs to borrow money, they sell bonds. And basically a bond is, the best way to think of a bond is it is simply an IOU. It's an IOU note. So when the government needs to raise money, they borrow money, you lend them money, and they pay you back with interest, and you make a little bit. They're not as risky as stocks, not as safe as money market, but they're kind of that in betweens, medium risk, medium return. All right, number 4. Know the myths. Number 1, number 5, and number 11. Myth number 1. Myth number 1 has to do, if you're looking in your book, sorry, I'm trying to clean up my document here. Myth number 1 has to do with lending money to a friend or relative. Never a good idea to lend money to a friend or a relative is the truth, because it will strain the relationship. It's the whole myth number 1 is the borrower is slave to the lender. Slave to the lender. So if you can remember that key concept, you'll be fine for myth number 1. It strains relationships if you lend money. Myth number 5 says car payments are a way of life. Car payments do not have to be a way of life. You can pay cash for a used car and you won't have a car payment. You can even pay cash for a new car and you won't have a car payment. Car payments certainly are not something that have to be a way of life. Save up money, pay cash. I think that's Dave Ramsey's motto. Number 11 has to do with credit cards. The myth is that, if I pay off my credit card every month with no annual fee, I get brownie points, I get air miles, I get a free hat, and so a credit card isn't really that bad of a thing. The truth is that you spend more money. It's so easy. You're trying to get these rewards. These rewards are really insignificant in the end. So you end up spending more than you would otherwise. And if you spend more, you have less. Pretty basic concept. So myth number 11 is, the truth of it is that you end up spending more money. So, question number 5. These are questions that came directly from your tests. You should be able to look these up. Letter A, we already talked about, Ben and Arthur. Letter B, how should a Christian approach saving and investing? What should be your priority with money? And your answer should be that the priority should be giving first, saving second, and spending third. That reference from Matthew 6:19 through 24, read that. That has to do with, I don't remember the words off the top of my head, but how God clothes the lilies of the field more beautiful than we are dressed. And if God cares that much for the lilies of the field, how much more does He care for us? And I think that speaks to the heart of this idea that we should give first and not worry about tomorrow. Give first, save second, spend should be the lowest in your priorities. And the cool thing about that is, the better you are with your finances, the more you're able to give. And giving feels good as it should. All right, last one, C, continuing in Matthew, that 25 through 34. That's the passage about not storing up for yourself treasures in heaven, not storing up for yourself treasures on earth, but storing up treasures in heaven. And in chapter 5, part 4 of Dave Ramsey, Dave says that the happiness is now, not something in the future. And that's really important. I think these two things go hand in hand. If we are always saying, I will be happy when. I will be happy when I get a new car. I'll be happy when my baby is born. I'll be happy when, we miss out on what's happening now and the happiness of the moment. And joy and happiness are not something that can be bought. It's not something I'll be happy when I get this or when I achieve this. Happiness is now. Happiness for me is I get to go home in a couple minutes here and hopefully I'll feel my baby James kick. But happiness is even now creating this video. Happiness is not something we have to be, it's not some unattainable goal, that's something in the future. It's something we can have now. And the Matthew 6:25 through 34 echoes this, saying that, these things on earth, these are not happiness. These are not the treasures we need to store up. The treasures in heaven are things like loving your neighbor as yourself. That's what brings true joy. So doing what God told us is what brings true happiness. All right, so I hope that helps you answer those questions. All of the Dave Ramsey videos are also available via Moodle. If you need to rewatch any of them, I would encourage that Chapter 5, Part 4, rewatching that. I love that Dave Ramsey, although he speaks in a fairly public forum, is very overtly Christian. He has Christian concepts and Christian ideas running throughout all of his lessons. And so watch them, pick up on that, and if you have any questions while you're studying, you can call me, you can email me, you can actually even text me at this number if you like. I'm pretty quick at getting back to you. That's probably the quickest way to get a hold of me. You can email me, probably the grcs.org or the gmail.com are the best two emails, although I check the grchristian.org email fairly regularly too. So I hope this helps, and good luck on all your studying.